Okay, everyone. Hey, Profesor Cañedo here, and here's another nuts and bolts video for you. And I think that's going to be the last one for the semester. And in this video, I will go ahead and tell you more about how to complete the auto industry form, the second of the big three topics. Of course, you've already completed your comments on the immigration form. Thank you very much for posting your comments. And definitely, please go back in the form before the end of the semester and reply to my responses to you. And definitely do the same thing once I finish replying to your comments on the U.S. auto industry. And then of course the next topic is the 1980s music video form, and there's not going to be any nuts and bolts video for that. I think the information you have on the assignment worksheet is fairly self-explanatory. So let's go ahead and get onto it, everybody. Let me tell you what it is that you would need to do for this form. And I do have one major change, one big development to go along with this. So sort of a breaking news update kind of thing. So I'll have that information for you, that breaking news toward the end of the video. But first, let's go ahead and get into the assignments and exams section first, because the main information is of course posted there. So let me go ahead and quickly open up that section for you and scroll all the way down to the big three forum topics. And I've already got the information sheet queued up for you here on another tab. So let me go ahead and open that up for you. Okay, all right. Here's the immigration topic. So we already covered that, and then of course the information about the music video. That's the third item here on this two-page worksheet. Okay, the way this works is that there is going to be three parts with respect to this assignment. So there's multiple parts, multiple moving parts to it. So let me go ahead and go through each part and tell you what it is you have to do. The first major component, first major thing that you need to do is review one of the articles about the legendary Henry Ford. Of course, Mr. Ford was more than just a magnate in terms of the auto industry, but there were many other facets to him too. And in fact, I would make the point that a lot of the attention, of course, that the new president Trump has in terms of being a celebrity, in addition to being a titan of real estate. Mr. Ford, in many respects, had that same type of notion, in that he was definitely a celebrity for his time, much like Mr. Trump is for our time. So the first thing you need to do is go into the course document section and pick one of the articles I have about Henry Ford. These are articles which I had collected from a workshop that I actually attended in Dearborn, pertaining to Henry Ford. So let's get out of the worksheet right here, and let's go ahead and move on into the course documents section. So we'll hit course documents, and then in course documents, let's scroll all the way down to the Henry Ford readings. And here are the choices of readings here. So pick one of these articles here, each one of them pertaining to a different aspect about Henry Ford's life and times, his relations to his workers in terms of being an engineer and an innovator, and of course a person of celebrity, of a superstar status, that type of thing. So just pick one of these and give me a paragraph in which you talk about some of the main points that the article addresses, how the article changed your view, or maybe helped to shape your view. So whatever thoughts you had about Henry Ford before, how did the article reinforce those views, or change those views? And at the end of it, then tell me about what you think about Henry Ford after you read the article. In some articles, undoubtedly, you'll come away with a more of a positive view, but in others, it'll be a little bit more of a complicated view, and in some cases, maybe outright negative view about Henry Ford. So again, just choose one of these, and in the discussion board, in the same area, of course, where you posted your comments on immigration, of course, go into the form pertaining to the auto industry topic, and then give me your thoughts, your perspectives about the article. It doesn't have to be a really, really lengthy, but give me a good paragraph to describe your views, your thoughts about the article, and that'll take care of that portion of the discussion. So let's go ahead and get out of this and go back to the go back to the go back to the worksheet. Is what I try to say. Okay, after you finish giving me your thoughts about the Henry Ford one, now go ahead into part two, in which you're to examine car culture of the 20th century from the perspective of advertising. And the way to do this is that you go into the external links and video section here and choose two commercials. So you have to do a comparison and a contrast on two commercials. You can compare and contrast two commercials of the 1950s, one of the 50s, one of the 60s, and maybe one of the 50s and one of the 1980s, even into the early 1990s. But definitely don't get any commercials that are later than, say, 1990, 91, 92. So early 90s at the very latest. After you see the commercials, I want you to address some of these topics here. What are the messages that the advertisers are trying to present? What kind of themes do we see here? Do we see themes of power, masculinity, or maybe sexuality? Is there patriotism? Is there a pro-America type of stance in the commercial, or maybe more individualistic? Like I'm a macho man. I'm a rebel. I'm not going to listen to what anything says. That type of thing. Or is there more of an emphasis on family? Of course. Are there a lot of kids in the commercial? Does the commercial have cartoons? Um, and Also talk a little bit about the target audience. Is the audience geared more toward white Americans, or is there more of an aim toward African Americans too, or women? uh, Younger people, older demographics. And what do the commercials? What do you think the commercials say about the decade in which they appeared? What do the commercials tell you about the 1950s culture, or the 1960s, or the early to mid 1970s? So those are some of the things that I'd like for you to look at as you examine your commercials, and feel free to be creative in your responses. And when you post your comments, if you can, please link your commercials within the context of your comments as well. So by no means do you have to be limited to the choice of commercials I have for you here in the class and Blackboard. Anything else that you find outside, and of course YouTube is an excellent resource for all kinds of great stuff. Definitely just include the link anywhere within the course of your discussion. So um, I think one long paragraph, one a good sized paragraph to talk about the commercial. So after the paragraph, once you talk about the Henry Ford article, then in your next paragraph, talk about your commercials. Let's take a quick look at some examples of some commercials that I've got linked up for you here in the class. So we'll get out of this and we'll go over to external links and videos. We click that and we go into the car commercials from YouTube section. I'll play a couple quick commercials for you. Okay, let's say some of you want to explore a 1950s commercial. So here's one here for the Nash company. Nash became part of what became known as American Motors, AMC, which fell by the wayside. It's about the late 1970s, early 1980s. So if we click that, and I'll just play about 10 seconds of it for you. Okay, obviously we see a Walt Disney theme here. We see kind of crude versions of Pluto and Mickey Mouse. So definitely there's a sense of family values, that type of theme is being promoted here. So build upon that and tell me what you think the commercial says about 1950s society and culture. And I've got several more commercials about the 1950s here too, so that you can definitely explore. Now, if you want to compare and contrast with, let's say, something from the 1970s, maybe a bit of a different perspective, let's scroll down here. I've got one here from 1970 that has a little bit more of a different tone to it. Let's play it. I'll play about 10, 15 seconds of this one. Okay, obviously, I think you see what's happened here. Definitely not so much themes in terms of family values, but I guess you might say more of a sense of trying to promote or push someone's masculinity. So more of a sense of individuality and being a rebel and just doing your own thing, that type of thing. In essence, it seems to epitomize the spirit of the early 1970s. So definitely the two examples that I showed for you right here. You can't get more opposite in terms of the themes that is family values versus a little bit more elements of sexuality going on here, individuality. So definitely in your comments, make note of that as you discuss this. So that's one of the early 1970s. Here for you. I've got quite a few others of the 1970s and some into 1980s. So I've got a wide range of commercials you can choose from. You don't have to choose any of these. You can go on your own and I've just picked something within from the 1950s to about the early 1990s. And if you click this one right here, this YouTube user from Milan in Italy has a lot of good commercials about the U.S. auto industry you can check out too. So check his page too to get some other ideas. But I think from the choices you have, it's a good place to start. So again, you can choose any two of these I have here for you, or go off on your own and pick a couple from YouTube. And I'm sure you can check other websites too, like Vimeo or Daily Motion. You might be able to find some videos in there, but definitely YouTube, a great place to look. Okay, so that's part two. So compare and contrast the two commercials. Talk about that in your discussion. Now, the last thing, there was going to be a part three, but here's where the big news is. So this breaking news, very important, muy importante. Part three, you were to choose an article from on the U.S. auto industry from USA Today, Detroit Free Press, or any reputable newspaper, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, wherever. Not anymore. I'm dropping this. So this is the big news. I am dropping part three completely from the part of discussion. Don't do part three. Don't worry about this. You don't have to go off and find an article. Over the last couple of semesters, I felt this part of discussion didn't really contribute much to the overall scheme of things. It seemed to be a little bit more extra. It didn't really add to the add anything to the discussion. Um, whereas more people got into talking about Henry Ford and their commercials, but this one just seemed like dead weight. Didn't seem to. So in other words, don't do part three. Only work on the Henry Ford stuff and then talk about your two commercials and that's it. So for next so future class, I'm definitely dropping this completely from the assignment or directions. But for you guys, that's one less thing you have to worry about. So just talk about Henry Ford and of course your two commercials, and that's it. Just do those two parts, and that's all you need to do for the discussion. So to post your comments, of course, you go into the discussion forum section. Go into the auto industry forum, click that, and you're ready to rock and roll, and that's it. So just be sure to get your comments into me by this Friday, by midnight Friday, December 2nd, and I'll of course start reading and replying to all of you coming up this weekend. So there, everybody, that's how the auto industry discussion works. Again, skip part three. Don't do the article. I'm dropping that completely. Just focus in on the Henry Ford article and also on your two commercials, and that's it. Okay, any concerns or questions, you know how to reach me. Check with the message for professor, and make sure you pick Oscar Cañedo instructor from the list of people in the class and send your message. Okay, everyone, looking forward to reading all your comments about classic cars, about the Detroit 3, and definitely looking forward to getting into some conversation about this. Okay, that's it. I think that's the last nuts and bolts video for the semester. But I'll definitely be checking in with you frequently as we get closer toward the end of the semester.